All right, let's talk about something that's absolutely non-negotiable for any leader. If you don't get a handle on the language of finance, you're not just playing at a disadvantage, you're basically steering the ship right towards the rocks. So let's get into exactly why that is. So let me ask you this. Think about it for a second. In any company, I don't care what industry you're in, what's the one thing, the one universal language that actually takes a great idea from a whiteboard and makes it real? What's the thing that turns a brilliant strategy into actual results you can see and touch? Yup, it's finance. That's it. It is, without a doubt, the language of business. Every single choice a company makes, every big strategic bet, every win, every single loss, it all gets boiled down to the numbers. That's where the real story is told. Okay, so let's really dig into this first section, the core mandate. To get this, we've got to define what we even mean by financial mastery. It's one of those terms that gets tossed around all the time, but what does it actually mean for someone in a leadership position? And here's the thing. This is the key. Financial acumen. It's not about being an accountant. No way. It's about being a strategist. It's about being able to look at a balance sheet and see more than just a bunch of numbers. It's like being a doctor reading a patient's chart. You're seeing the health of the company. And you're using forecasts to answer the biggest question of all. Where do we put our resources? What really strikes me here is how direct this is. The source material doesn't hedge its bets. It doesn't say it's a good idea or something you should probably look into. It says you must master it. That's a huge difference. This isn't a soft skill. For anyone at the executive level, this is as core to the job as it gets. All right, so we get it. It's a mandate. But what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon? How does a leader who really gets this stuff operate day to day? Let's talk about the practice of acumen and break down what separates the talk from the walk. It really comes down to two massive things. First, you make sure the money actually follows the strategy. A brilliant plan with no budget, that's not a strategy, it's a wish. And second, you're constantly scanning the horizon. You're using the financial data like a radar to spot what's coming, whether it's a storm you need to prepare for or a huge opportunity you need to jump on. Okay, this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The leader's dilemma. It's this constant tug of war. You've got to drive growth, which costs money, but you also have to make sure you're actually profitable. You can't just burn cash forever. Financial skill is what lets you walk that tightrope, knowing exactly when to hit the gas and when to pump the brakes. And that brings us to our final section, the ultimate payoff. We've talked about what it is, we've talked about how you do it, but now let's talk about the so what. What is really on the line here? What happens when you get it right? And more importantly, what happens when you get it wrong? When you nail this, the upside is just huge. Think about it. When a leader can speak fluently about the financials, investors feel it. They trust you. And that trust, it unlocks capital. With that capital, you can make the smart moves, the targeted investments that lead to real sustainable growth. We're not just talking about hitting your numbers this quarter. We're talking about building a business that's still around in 10, 20 years. So in the end, it really is a choice between two very different paths. There's no middle ground. On one path, you have strong financial skills. That leads to discipline, which builds a company that can last. But on the other path, weak oversight, well, that's not just a small mistake. That's a fatal flaw. It's the kind of thing that can literally cause the whole thing to collapse. So, if you take one thing away, let it be this. Yeah, we've been talking about numbers and spreadsheets and all that, but what we're really talking about is survival. Financial discipline isn't some boring accounting task. It's the very engine that keeps the company alive and allows it to grow. And that leaves us with the one question every leader needs to be asking themselves, probably every single day. Your strategy might be brilliant. Your vision might be world-changing. But is it just a dream? Because that vision is only as strong as the financial reality it's built on. So I'll leave you with this. Does your balance sheet agree with your big plans?